Hello, hello. Hopefully this is working. This is the first time I've done this using this particular setup. Um, and in theory, you should be hearing my voice. If you can't hear my voice, give me a little something in the chat so I know I'm not just talking to my phone. Also, hi. I hope everyone's hanging in there. I don't know about where you are, but for me, it's really rainy and really gross, and that feels sort of spiritually correct. So that's why we're going to be really cozy today. Oh, good. Ollie says all good here. So that's a good sign. Oh, I can test something out. Yeah, that worked. Sorry, there's all these features on this software. Well, calling it software is a bit of a stretch. It's kind of like a web application, but it's fun. It's fun. Oh, that's right. I can have music. Hang on. This is very important. We got to have background music. I tested these all out beforehand, but it didn't save. So I have to try again. There we go. All right. So yeah, we're just here to like chill and have a nice time. And I hope you guys are gonna work on something or just like take a break from your phone. There's not much to this. I'm gonna be spinning. So this is some wool that I have not been doing a filming project on. This is like one of the first projects I did with wool, and I kind of wanted to do a test run on my own before I made a project film out of it. So I'm just gonna be spinning it. This is almost the end of what I have of this, so this is kind of an excuse for me to finish this up as well. So we'll get going. If you guys have any like issues with audio or visual or anything, just let me know. I'll try to troubleshoot them. It was kind of a trick to figure out how to frame this. So like, not only can you get me, and I'm going to be kind of like facing off camera, which is kind of annoying, but also the spinning wheel. I actually have an idea about that. Oh, I'm going to do a slight little switcheroo. The thing is, like, this is the part of the wheel that actually is exciting. This is where the action happens. And, like, I really want that specific part of this to be in shot, so maybe we'll just leave it the way it was. Because if I flip it, then that's kind of hidden behind. It's tricky. It's not really meant to be part of a photo op experience. I'm just doing it anyway because I like it. Oh, I hope you all have some nice refreshments. I have a pot of tea back here that I'm hiding. And yeah, this is a day for lots of tea and also being nice to yourself. So make sure you have your refreshments available. Ollie has just cast on for a Christmas project. You are ahead of the game. Well, oh my gosh, it is November. Oh my God, you're not ahead of the game. Time marches forward. Well, good job. I'm proud of you. All right. I'll set up here. I'm gonna start going. Oh, tension's way too high. I can tell the last thing I did on here was plying because my tension's all cranked up. We're going to be spinning the singles for what will eventually be a 2-ply yarn. This is just the first part. So in the stream, like I said, I haven't done this before. I'm using my cell phone as a web camera. So we're going to kind of go until either it runs out of battery, which could be, who knows, frankly, or until it feels like we've done a good job here and we can just move on. So Whichever one of those happens first. In a little bit, I'll see if I can change the camera angle so we can see a little bit better what's going on with the spinning. But for right now, I think this will work just fine. Is the music creating any sort of like reverb or echo? I'm just realizing I'm hearing it on my end, which is a little bit concerning. It makes me wonder if it's being caught by the mic. How is it going with the music experience? Because otherwise I can just mute my computer. Has that improved things any? I just went ahead and I muted the computer. I just sort of cottoned on to the fact that that might be an issue. Oh, we might be about to have some kitty help. Hello. She seems good either way. Well, that's good to hear. Oh, she's a good baby who likes to chew cords. Hello, you. You've got a little assistant. Little assistant who is trying to chew a cord, which is not something that we like to have happen. I need that cord. She's like, freedom. Yes, you want freedom, but I want you not to eat my cords. So do we have an accord? We'll see. We'll see how long that lasts. Luckily, it's a cord that's like directly in view, so hopefully spot it before tragedy occurs. There has been some tragedies in this house. There's a little bit of history there. A little cord monster. Oh, I love her. All right, but because I have my computer muted, if the music stops or cuts out or it gets weird for some reason, you have to tell me because I can't hear it, which is, I guess, good, question mark. But it does have some potential consequences. And thanks to Ollie, actually. They were the one who suggested this particular method of live streaming, and it seems like it's working pretty well. So I'm glad to hear that. I was kind of feeling a little bit overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to do this. I don't have like a particularly robust laptop to do these off of. I just have a Chromebook. I have a proper computer, like a computer with an actual operating system. But it is a desktop computer that I use for video editing. So when it comes to mobile operations like this, I was kind of feeling a little worried about my options. So thank you, Ollie. This is the very end of the previous fleece that I dealt with, and I have an upcoming video actually about the next fleece. It's almost entirely filmed. I'm going to start editing this week, but I'm really curious how the experiences are going to differ because, in theory, hopefully one learns as you go on. And I put a lot of work into the next fleece, the one that you're going to be able to see a video on shortly, and I really hope that work pays off because you always want your work to pay off, right? Like, that's not rocket science, but I'm also just excited to work with it. I think it'll be really nice. This is also perfectly nice, but it's a little more rough around the edges, which is absolutely fine for like the type of yarn that I'm using, but I'm excited to make a little bit of a finer yarn with the next fleece. I don't know if the audio can pick it up, but there's this amazing sound that happens when you do spinning on a spinning wheel. It's like this little, very gentle whirring noise as both the wheel and the flyer and the bobbin all sort of spin around together. I'm going to try to get really good footage of it in a video or something because it is pretty special sounding. And I actually have a new microphone, which I'm really excited about, which should help make some of that stuff a little better. But for this, it is what it is. So kind of the awkward thing is my phone camera is here, hello, but my computer with all of you guys living on it is here. So I have to sort of like split my difference a little bit. Oh, and my tea is here. Don't forget your tea. Take a tea break. Just gonna make sure nothing exciting is happening here. Looks good, looks good, looks good. Right. So my favorite tea right now is it's kind of like an Earl Grey based one. I have a decaf version, but it's funny because when I was a kid, my mom used to drink this tea all the time, and I thought it tasted just disgusting like soap. But my tastes have changed as adulthood has claimed me, and now I think it's one of the best teas. So I try to tell her that because it cracks me up that like I genuinely thought it was nasty. And I don't know when exactly that shift happened, but it did. All right. It's actually been a couple weeks since I've done any spinning. I spun a whole bunch of this yarn up, kind of not in like one go, but like, you know, many, many days in a row. And I was so close to being finished, and then, you know, some stuff happened, as life happens, right? And it had been a little while since I worked on it, so it's nice to be able to have an excuse to spend some time finishing it up. Get it from 90% complete to like 100% complete, aka the hardest part. Actually, I have that right here. So this is what I've spun before on this. This is all the same fleece, same yarn. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. 7, 8, 9. And this will be 10. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get 10 or 11 total skeins out of this. Time will tell. And I haven't done any measuring of them yet. I'm going to, the final thing you do after you spin them, after you drop them, is you kind of give them a little bath, basically. Not with any like soap, well, just a tiny bit of soap. But it is to set the twist in them and give them a sense of, like, give them a moment to sort of relax their fibers. It's very similar to like blocking a sweater. So after that is when I'll measure them, just in case there's any change in length during that process. I really have no idea how much is here. Ollie, you've got chai. That's good. I'm glad you have a beverage. We all need a beverage today. I managed to get through this part, you guys will see the very high-tech way in which I unspool my bobbin. Because this is kind of like a one-off spinning wheel, I only have one bobbin here. A lot of like modern or commercially available spinning wheels will have, these come out. You can hear it clicks around. You can have like 3 or 5 or 6 of these and just like interchange them when you're done. I don't have that. What I have is a power drill. So you'll get to see the power drill in action once we get to that point. I have this much left to go before power drill moment, so we have a little ways to go. I'm measuring it in ounces at this point, so that I will have roughly the same amount on each of my singles that I can ply together, so that I won't have any waste. That's the idea. There's always a little bit of waste, but sanity. Well, hello there, Jane. Oh, interesting. So you're saying here, just in case someone's listening and not reading, that you finished reading women's work the first 20,000 years. I bet that's a really interesting book. Yeah, you should try spinning. It's really addictive. So the story is, I got a loom, and then I kind of got the spinning wheel as like a deal with the loom. I was really excited about the loom. The spinning wheel has eaten my soul. I was not expecting that. It just happened. So, life. Like, if you want to get into just spindle spinning with like a drop spindle as like an entry point, this is a step I completely skipped because I don't do things logically. I do things entirely via vibes. But this is a normal way to start, is to start on like a drop spindle. You could just like make one of those out of like a pencil and something heavy. So there are ways to get started without having to have this ridiculous wooden contraption in your house. Although I will say, I really like my ridiculous wooden contraption. Catherine says, we don't choose the ancient fiber arts life. The ancient fiber arts life chooses us. And that feels extremely true. Yes, extremely. It's also like, you might be like interested in it, but like what specifically you end up doing seems completely up to like, I don't know, just fate. Okay, I say that. One of the other things that I'm getting into is dyeing. And I picked up a whole bunch of sumac berries to use to dye some of the upcoming wool that I have going on. And I am pretty stoked about that, although there's quite a lot of logistics I have to figure out. The amount of wool that is in a fleece is, not infinite, but it is fairly substantial from like a logistics perspective when it comes to processing that wool. And if I'm going to dye it, I need to either be very, very meticulous in my measurements, which is not exactly a forte of mine, or I need to source an enormous vat. I have a feeling I will end up doing it kind of piecemeal and just try my best to be meticulous and maybe fail, but we'll see what ends up happening. I have not gotten to that part. I picked a bunch of the berries and then I had to set it aside for a little bit, so I don't know. It's kind of interesting. The berries are such a bright red vibrant color, but apparently the color that they produce on wool is actually kind of like a light tan. But I think that will look really nice. This fleece that I'm currently spinning I'm just leaving it as is, so it's kind of a nice oatmeal color. But I think it'll be kind of nice to change it up for the next one and have a little bit of a color going on there, even if it's fairly subtle and gentle. It's nice to see you here, even if you have to jet, you know. Do what you gotta do. Oh yeah, talking about drop spindles, yeah. The pencil weight one, yeah. Not having room for a full-blown wheel is extremely normal. I'm just lucky I live in a house that has extra space. That's just kind of a quirk of fate. I think if I didn't, I don't know. I'd probably end up doing something completely different. I think if I didn't have the space for this, I don't know. I don't know what strange world I would be in. Something fun, but different. This is the way. Ollie says, what stage are you going to do the dyeing at? Fiber, singles, or plied yarn? That's a good question. There's pros and cons to all of the different stages, right? Dyeing it in the wool is the classic phrase for when you dye it in the raw, like, fluff before you spin it into singles or ply it. And I kind of would like to do it that way because it's more fun. You get to see it while you spin it. And there's just more opportunity to stare at it. And also, if something goes wrong, there's a little bit more opportunity for me to change things or adjust how I move forward. Once you spin it, you are a little bit limited. So specifically, I'm thinking if I have to do it in batches, if I dye it in the wool, if I dye it in the fluffy part, I'm able to blend those batches together so I have a homogeneous yarn rather than having, let's say, slight variances in color that show up between the different, essentially the dye lots, right? So I can kind of circumnavigate the dye lot issue if I do it that way. That's where my brain's at anyway. I don't. Time will tell. I've done natural dyeing before, and even on raw fleece or raw wool, it was commercially prepared rather than stuff I had prepared, and it definitely works. Like the method works. I didn't do it with sumac berries, so it will be a little bit different. But I do not have room for that much fluff. That is a good reason to maybe do it as plied yarn because it is all of the air, well, not all of the air, but a significant amount of the air is out, right? So once you spin it, it is smaller. Kind of like one of those, like, well, yes, duh, but like from a managing the size scenario. Oh, that's tricky. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Long answer. Short answer is I don't know. Sorry, big tangent there. I don't know. I'm excited to start that, but it is a little bit intimidating in terms of just the logistics. And also, like, not wanting to mess it up. I've put so much time into it already so far, into that fleece, that the risk of the dye being the wrong color is like not the risk I'm concerned about. I don't really care. I can always over dye it or like figure something else out, blend some other fibers in there with there. The color is like the most minor concern. The major concern is felting it, right? Is making it so that the fiber can't be spun into yarn somehow. That is pretty much the worst case scenario. And that is, again, a good reason to do it as a yarn versus in the wool. But we'll see. I might do it the risky way anyway, because I'm kind of a risky NB sometimes. I get in the groove sometimes and I forget to change what hook this is on, and it gets kind of not a very organized bobbin, but that's okay. Kind of doing like a modified long draw here. Seems to be working pretty well. I say that as soon as I lose it there, but it's just a method where you let the fibers themselves sort of figure out what they want to do. You don't micromanage it too much, unless you get a big blob like this, and then you sort of just tease it apart. Catherine says, live fast, die young, but DYE young. And yes, I hope that the fleece does not DIE young. We'll see. Oh, I clicked on this to share the comment before I realized who or what it was. Hi, Mindy.
Hi. Love you.
I love you too. That's my partner, Mindy. She's in the basement. I didn't even read your comment. What are you doing? Oh, you docking me points for my disorganized bobbins? How will I ever get these points back? I'll get some extra credit. I'll get some extra credit. One, two. We are halfway through the fluff. All right. Tea break. Everybody have their beverage? It's not warm anymore, but it's still tea, so that's good enough. Also, I get to show off this mug. This was made by somebody who has a connection here. But I don't know if they want to be named, so I will not tell you, but I will just show off. It's a cool mug. All right. Unhitch myself. Yes, it is honestly a really good mug. It's very cute. It's very stylish. It has a small enough quantity of beverage that fits in it that you actually drink it before it gets cold usually. The problem is not the mug. The problem is I made this pot of tea 2 hours ago. All right. Do we want to risk a scene change? Do you guys want to see the sort of the setup up close? I'm going to take silence as a yes, so just be warned that if you don't say no, you are agreeing. This is like terms and service agreements for everything on the internet. All right, I got one enthusiastic yes, and that's good enough for me. All right, this is going to be a little jumbly. If you are, sensitive to motion stuff, maybe close your eyes for a second, because I'm going to have to move the camera. Alright, my previous setup I thought was so smart, and it is coming to bite me in the booty. Alright. Just have to make this balance. The hard part is have it not tip over. Let's see. Sorry, y'all. It was harder than I thought. Thanks, dear. All right. Slightly closer, anyway. Now I gotta get in without knocking it all over. Oh, yeah. All right, slightly closer. And we have an awkward angle for my head, but we're just gonna ignore that. Hi, Jolie. Sorry, we're now at an angle where you have to see the back of my head if I want to read the comments. So it just got really exciting. But hopefully you can kind of see the actual spinning better. Also, yes, if anyone was looking away because of motion issues, that is now solved. The camera is nice and steady. So you can see all the yarn I literally just dropped on the floor. Boop, boop. Ultimate question. Is the sort of whirring of the spinning wheel coming through on the audio at all? That's the real question of this new angle. If I get this a little closer, maybe we'll hear it. Once again, you have to see my head. Sorry. Oh, Jolie, I'm sorry. I misread your name. Jolie says, I can hear the pedal. Well, the pedal is definitely part of the experience. I'm sorry you can't hear this little bit moving around. Oh, once again, I have a disorganized bobbin. Going to dock me more points. But the pedal is definitely part of it. All right, get my big old head out of the way again. Yeah, I'm glad that comes through on the audio. So yeah, the loom, which I have yet to really do a nice video on, still a suspenseful addition to my household. The loom and the spinning wheel came in at the same time into our home, and kind of our gut assumption is that it might have been built by just like a person. I was speaking to somebody at a spinning store who was at the time buying another spinning wheel for herself. She was buying a spinning wheel number 12. So she, if nothing else, I'll say that she had a lot of experience looking at and using spinning wheels. But she was saying that there was a particular spinning magazine that was circulating in the 1990s or maybe even the 80s. And there was, you could write in and, pay for like a diagram to build a wheel. And so I'm thinking, because we could not for the life of us find any like maker's marks or stamps or serial numbers or anything on this thing, our assumption kind of based on that conversation is that this was just made by somebody, who followed a pattern. But, who knows for sure? It's one of those things where unfortunately sometimes you can't really figure out the actual story on something. Both the loom and the spinning wheel were from a estate sale. And so there's a certain amount of knowledge that is just kind of lost to time on that one. The loom, though, is definitely handmade. And I think that's part of the reason we were a little bit confident on this one being potentially handmade. The loom, again, has no maker's marks, has no kind of anything really in terms of documentation or serial number or anything. And the more we sort of got into its guts, the more we realized, that is a custom job there. It has some cool idiosyncrasies that are really awesome, in fact. All right, now that the bobbin's getting a little bit fuller, I'm going to crank the tension up. The tension is actually, all it is, sorry, my giant head, all it is basically a way of moving this contraption, the entire sort of area, further and closer to the spinning wheels, so it produces more and less tension on the drive bands. So when I say increasing the tension, all I'm really doing is just making the drive band tighter by moving it farther away. Catherine asks, do you have any clue when it was made? I don't. I'm going to just like hazard a wild guess that somewhere in the 80s and 90s. But I have no actual evidence for that. It's just vibes. So I don't think it is particularly old, but it is pretty dang well made. It's still doing great. All I really had to do was there was a friend of a friend locally who does spinning, and so I took it over to her house, and she very kindly kind of showed me some ropes and showed me how to oil it so it would stay in good condition. But all I really had to do was oil her up and get her going. There was really no maintenance I had to do in order to get it up and running. Even the drive band was the same one that was on there. So got really lucky with it. It's one of the situations where neither Mindy or I really had a level of knowledge going in on terms of like what to look for when you're buying a spinning wheel or a loom, really. And we just used some context clues and got really lucky. Like it looked like it had been used. It was in like, it wasn't like broken apart in a garage, but part of it was just luck, honestly. Vibes is valid. Could you take the measurements from the bot button and get a 3D print spares? Actually, so that was Ollie who asked that. That is a good question. And the answer is yes. And the other answer is I have a better solution coming. There is a makerspace near me, which has featured in a couple videos before. It's a really great spot, but it also has a huge woodworking area, and I am not a woodworker. I would not be confident enough, say, on a lathe to be able to produce a bobbin, but someone there has made bobbins for spinning wheels before, and I've actually already been in contact with her. She's going to make me some spares for a very, very reasonable fee, so The 3D print is my backup plan if that doesn't work for whatever reason. Because yeah, it would be really nice to have more than one. My solution of, here, I'll show you. We're not there yet, but I'll give you a little preview here. My solution for getting these off without removing the bobbin is part of the shuttle from the loom and a power drill. And you just run it backwards so all these bits come onto here. It's not particularly sexy, but it does work pretty good. I've done quite a lot of yarn on it. It'll be easier not to have to do that, but it has worked as a solution. Or better yet, simply hand carve them like the original maker. Catherine, we're trying not to have yet another hobby, okay? We're trying to keep the number of hobbies at like 7,000 and not 8,000. But it's true. Yeah. I actually had a friend create a 3D model for me, which was really nice of him. So if I fail at getting the wooden ones made, I will figure out how to 3D print those. The wooden ones I think will behave better. They will have the right weight. If I do the 3D print ones, I'm probably going to have to figure out how to weigh them down a little bit so that they just behave correctly. Although, probably is fine. I'm overthinking it. All right. More fluff. More fluff. Where's the camera? Oh, hello. More fluff. The drill is brilliant. Yeah, I can't remember if it was me or Minnie who came up with it, but it does work pretty well. Jolie says, I've knitted for almost 20 years. I always thought about taking up spinning, but I'm intimidated. Don't be intimidated. I'm just, I don't know anything, and I managed it. So you will be fine if you start. Yeah, again, just sort of start small. Do the things I did not do in life. Start with like just a drop spindle made out of a pencil and, see if you like it. I completely skipped that phase. I have no idea how to use a drop spindle. But do as I say, I guess. Or don't. Or just end up with a giant wheel in your house. I'm not going to judge you on that one either. That would be very hypocritical of me. So the fibers of this particular fleece, so this fleece came off of a Shetland sheep. And it's a combination of like really cute, short-ish, crimpy, like hairs. I guess hairs is the wrong word. Furs. And longer sort of like lead furs, like you would see on a dog. And so it's a two-coated sheep. It has two coats. I have just blended them all together in here because life is short and I did not want to go through and separate them all. So what's happening as I'm spinning is that the hairs are getting drawn in, and because the lengths of them are staggered, they're not all lined up exactly the same. The end of one is not in the beginning of the other. They're, overlapped like shingles just by their nature. What that means is they're all sort of pulling each other along. And so this method of spinning, I'm mostly letting kind of the fibers do what they want. They'll get pulled and I just sort of let them go. There's another method of spinning where you work to get it much more organized. You're not going to have any little like whoa going on. But because this fleece has a lot of, I would say, imperfections in it and kind of a little bit of personality. There's not really any reason to go to all that trouble because it's going to look a little blah anyway. So I might as well just like let it do its thing. It's going to just mean a slightly, not chunkier necessarily yarn, but a little bit more, it's got a little bit more greebles in it, you know? Like here, for example, I don't think you can see it. There's just a tiny little piece of hay still. I got out a lot of hay, but it still comes through. All right, get my extra credit points here. Move up on time, not have a disorganized bobbin. Jolie says, don't encouraging me. I'm exactly extra enough to do it. Yeah, good. Good. Means maybe you'll be joining me on spinning is what I'm hearing. Ollie says, a friend of mine made a spinning wheel out of plumbing supplies. Yes, actually. Okay, I went recently to the Wisconsin Fiber Festival. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's not that far from where we live. And we went, and there was a whole stall set up of someone who was making spinning wheels, and they were not entirely out of plumbing supplies, but the base of it was PVC pipe. And they were very lightweight, and they were much more affordable to buy, which was really, really cool. It was actually really interesting. I was talking to the person who was selling them there, and she was saying that the wheel part of it, it's a different configuration. This is a double drive wheel where the wheel is up here. That particular configuration was a double pedal where the wheel is here and you work here. It's called a castle setup. But the wheel for those was they're like wheelchair wheels. So not only is it plumbing materials, it's also just even that is not wood. So it was really cool to see. Yeah, DIY stuff is awesome. Oh yeah, Mindy knows. Sheep and Wool Festival. Yes, I have this person's card in my wallet somewhere. So if I find that, I will share it at some point. Amanda says, hello, Amanda. Yes, join us for the chill vibes. We are here to just have fun and hang out and not think. Spin, don't think. That's the way. Talking about spinning, talking about spinning wheels, talking about potentially extra hobbies that they're extra in the sense that we don't necessarily need them, and they're extra in the sense that we are extra about them. And that is the right way to do things, in my opinion. Ooh, a cat has walked into the room, but I don't think we're going to get visited by this particular cat, which is really too bad. He's a very good boy, but he's less excited about laps. So he is extremely unlikely to jump up here, which is just #tragic. So yeah, the way this current camera configuration works is you get a great view of what I'm doing, but it means if I want to read the comments on the laptop here, I have to get my entire head in the way, so apologies. Amanda says, I am all thinked out today. Ooh, yeah, you're doing audits. Oof, yeah. Yeah, come relax. No more audits here. Audits are for another day. The most important question for you, Amanda, is do you have a beverage? We were talking about beverages and teas earlier. I'm currently drinking decaf constant comment tea, and Ollie says that they are drinking, I think, leaf chai. This is very fancy. It's making me want more tea. It's not a chill vibes day unless you have a nice beverage. Even a nice beverage can be water. We're not shaming. We're not shaming, unlike Mindy, who shamed me for my untidy bobbin, so I'm moving up right on time. So the way the bobbin progresses is obviously it winds and collects more of what you're spinning here, but it does not like automatically go up and down. You have to manually change which hook it sits on. So it will spin up where that hook is. So I have to remember to move that hook. That's hard. There's audit talk in the comments. You guys are fun. I meant that unironically for the record. I realized that could have been taken as sarcasm. Not. All right, we are approaching the end of all of this yarn, which is very exciting. Which means it will be time soon to grab the power drill. But not yet. Constant comment. Yes, sorry, we're back to tea now. Constant comment. Okay, I was saying earlier that I used to think this tasted disgusting when I was a child, and now I think it is the best thing ever. So we must all be of the same age, and I'm just going to pretend that we all had this experience together. The end. Jolie asks, do you have a project in mind for the wool? And Jolie, you've spotted the heart of the problem. You spotted it a mile away. I don't. At this point, I have quite a bit of yarn that I've spun up, and my goal is eventually to be able to weave it into like something I can use to make things with, be it garments or bags or whatever. The goal is to be able to weave it into fabric, basically. But in terms of what I'm going to be using, like this specific yarn for, I don't know. Here, I'll give you. Actually, I just finished with this here, so I'm just gonna kind of hitch this off here so it doesn't run away, and then kind of show you. Where's the camera? There's the camera. What it looks like. So this is. After I've done 2 of these and then applied them together, this is what you get here. I'm just going to untwist it from its little skein. Show you. So many choices, so little yarn. Yes, you get it. There you go. Collecting yarn and then weaving or crocheting or knitting, they're separate hobbies. Yes, they are separate hobbies. I would like to be able to put all of this to use, though. I think that would be really a good feeling, especially because I made it, you know. But yeah, so this is what the yarn actually looks like. Woo. This program has mirrored the camera, so I'm just like constantly confused. Yeah. It's yarn. I went with sort of like what I was hoping to be a fairly average like yarn type. It is not super chunky, but not super thin. You could easily see this being knit into a hat or something like that. So if when I do weave it, it will be a fairly robust fabric that comes out of it. So I'm just gonna whack it back into its little skein here. But like I said, this fleece came off of a Shetland sheep, and that I was also just trying to sort of work within what was appropriate for that actual fleece. So there are some kind of like thick and thin areas, and all of that lends itself well to sort of a nice squishy yarn. Ollie says it looks DK-ish to me. Yes, I haven't done a wraps per inch like test on it yet, but I think it probably will be DK weight when I do that. Again, I'm waiting to get measurements on all of it until after I give it a soak, and I want to have all of the yarn together to do that at one time because I would not say I'm efficient, but I'll try to be efficient about that. All right. It is now time. This has been completed. We've done 1 ounce of that fiber and made it into a single. So I'm going to disengage my drive band. Just take it off. So now this, the wheel and this are now independent. And it's time for this. Yeah. All right. This will not sound very nice. So if that bothers you, you may want to mute for a minute or something. Trying to find my camera. There we are. Right, we made it. So, oops. There we go. This is what we just spun. So these are singles. You can see the difference, hopefully, between this, what you see here, and this, what you see here. This has a twist to it. There's 2 of these in here. So get these a little closer. Maybe. Whee, there we are. Maybe. Why is this so hard? There we go. Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Oh, we have more people. Hi. Hello, people. Hello, Bob. I was trying to read this and say your name at the same time. Hi, Bonnie, who says go, Bob, and Bob, go. Yeah. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure out another 1 ounce of fluff, and I will be right back. It should just take me a second, even though I have a little banner for this. I'm so excited to use it. There we are. Oh, okay. I'll be right back. I'm going to extricate myself. I've completely hemmed myself in with the tripod. All right. Let's see here. Forbidden spaghetti is my favorite comment so far. Yes, it is forbidden spaghetti. Do not eat the spaghetti. It is forbidden. But this is also forbidden. This is the proto spaghetti. Ollie says, lick the wool. So this is a reference to my beautiful perfect cats who they do lick the wool. They lick the wool a lot. They're very good. All right, so this is another 1 ounce of the same fiber as before, the Shetland fleece. I have at least enough to do this skein, maybe enough to do a whole nother skein. We will see. We're doing it 1 skein at a time until we run out, basically. So let's go. I'm going to do the exact same thing we did before so we can have 2 of the forbidden spaghettis together. That's our goal. Double spaghetti. Forbidden cotton candy. Yes, forbidden cotton candy, forbidden spaghetti. So many forbidden things here. Truly a land of unknowables. Whoops. All right. So I'm going to re-engage my drive band, put it back on my bobbin, back on my whirl, and go from here. Oh! Someone was knocking and I didn't realize that. Sorry. My friend just texted me. Maybe, yeah. Naomi's at the door and I didn't realize.
Yeah, sorry, I heard something, but like I've been hearing shit all day.
I assumed it was someone coming to tell us to vote and I ignored it.
Yeah.
I've already voted. I'm sorry.
Shit.
It might be too late.
Yeah, we're too late. Hi.
Naomi!
Oh, it's Naomi.
Hi! Sorry! Oh, life. Okay, drive band is re-engaged. We're gonna spin. Oh no. See, this is what always happens to me. I increase the tension as I go, and I need to remember to reduce the tension before I start my next one. Basically, as you add weight to the bobbin, it gets just ever so slightly harder and harder to turn, and so it needs to be slightly increased tension to make it go. Candy floss for you across the pond. Yes, I always forget that. Candy floss versus cotton candy. All right. Fresh batch of forbidden spaghetti coming up.
I told Naomi that she could have some cookies if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're not as good as the ones I gave you last time.
Okay. Those were really good.
They're slightly less
That's
good.
okay.
I thought they had too much butter in them, and that they were too flat.
Okay.
And these ones are now slightly mountainous.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
Also, hi.
figured at some
I am
point was
live streaming, and I completely
think
forgot.
that the thing in front of you means that you're live streaming.
It does mean
But it
that.
was kind of fun too.
You're being broadcast.
Okay.
You're not on camera though. You're okay. Also, hi. My friend Naomi came over and is receiving cookies, as she should.
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna bring here. Okay. And you should take it over with you. I should have it over. Oh gosh. Cheers. Cheers.
All right.
Good job. I like the texture.
Yeah, I added.
It has a nice crumb.
It does. I think the perfect balance is somewhere between the two batches of cookies, but you know, I'll just have to keep making more.
Yeah. These need a little more filling.
I added more flour, but I think additional adjustments were needed.
Did you use melted butter?
Yes.
I can taste it. It's really nice.
Yay!
It has like a warm feel.
I mostly.
We're behind you, but
The internet says hello, Naomi.
hello.
Naomi says hello, internet.
Actually, I'd like it to be hello world.
Oh, yes, Naomi says hello, world, not hello, internet. That is a very good distinction. We must accurately quote and represent our friends.
I'd also like to give credit for connecting Emily with somebody who does some spin.
That's true. Actually, yes, I said earlier in the stream that when I first got the spinning wheel, I took it to a friend of a friend who showed me how to oil it and take care of it. And indeed, Naomi is the connection point between me and that person. So it's a small world and full of good friends. Naomi also recently did us a big solid and looked after our cats for a couple of days while we were out of town. So I'm glad that we were able to get her in and feed her cookies. Very important. So I did a little test run of filming spinning earlier. I didn't end up making a video out of it. I wasn't happy with it as like a storytelling experience, but it was kind of nice to sort of do a test run with the filming aspect. Definitely learned some stuff, but it was really cool because I have a macro lens on my actual filming camera, and so you can get some really cool close-up shots of both the fiber and the spinning process. And I am really excited to be able to share that because it was pretty cool to see. Because, you know, it's one thing when you're doing it, you can look down, you see it happen. But like my face is not here, right? Like the camera lives here when I'm filming like that. And it's really cool to see it from that angle because that's like you can't you can't put your face here while you spin, obviously. And I think I'll be able to get some really nice audio too, since that's what I've been so obsessed with, is the sound. One of the things that surprised me when I started doing this is when you're spinning in this particular style, it's like that modified long draw I was saying before, where you let the fibers sort of dictate what they want to be doing. And you go for kind of a DK weight or larger yarn. It does not take that long to do. Not when you think about it, like for what you expect it to take. It takes obviously longer than like going to the store and buying yarn, but when you're thinking about making yarn, you think about it as a very, very long experience. But on a wheel like this, at least, it took a lot less time than I expected it to. I think if you spin much finer, or if you have a much more fussy type of yarn that you're making, where you really want it to be very smooth and very even, it will take you longer. But for this, I've been very impressed with how much you can get out. I don't typically time my projects because I find that to be sometimes an exercise in depression, because yeah, sometimes it's better just not to know, you know? You just live in ignorance. It takes however long it takes. But I am sort of curious for this particular type of project if it would be worth timing, just to see how long it takes to make a certain number of skeins. But then the question becomes, like, what do you time? Do you time active spinning? Do you time all of the prep work? Yeah, it becomes its own thing, because the time it takes to even just get to this very orderly fluff is significant as well. So it does become what counts. Bonnie says, the only reason to time would be if you want to do sheep and shawl someday. Yes, sheep to shawl is a particular sport, entertainment exercise. I don't know exactly what one would classify it as, but it is a spinning and knitting event. I think the thing that would prevent me from doing sheep to shawl specifically is that I don't knit. That seems like a pretty important prerequisite. It does seem quite funny. I think I'm one of the only spinners that I'm aware of that does not knit as well. You know, like I did learn how to knit. I did some knitting in college and stuff, but you know, just like scarves for friends and stuff. But it does not really captivate me in the same way as weaving or sewing. I think just the fact that it has little holes in it, like, it feels like it's not real fabric, which is obviously not true. It's just like a conceptual issue I have. All right, I've got a little bit of an issue here, so I'm just gonna work that out real quick here. There we go. And that's where that issue is. So the nice thing fiber is, in this case, I pulled it out because it was getting a little funny. But I'm just gonna go pull that off. It's dead to me. And just kind of like work this back into being fluff again. And then when this is nice and fluffy back here, I should be able to get it to just completely marry up to the fluff here. It's like it never happened. At this stage, it's all still just fibers. You can kind of make them do whatever the hell you want. Aha. Holly says, and this is in reference to the sheep to shawl comment, people have teams, so you can do knitting while spinning. Is still happening. Oh, I think that might be... I'm wondering if there's different types then, because the one I've seen is where you are responsible basically from start to finish. But I also know at this particular Fleece and Fiber show, there was also a, I believe, knitting relay race, which was quite fun. I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but I saw the setup, the course for it. But yeah, it's you knit and speed walk and you have to get to a certain number of stitches, I believe, as you go. So it's combination speed of knitting and coordination, which is quite fun. I don't know. I think it's quite charming that people have come up with all these silly ways to enjoy their things. I'm a fan of silly. I know it's shocking that I would be a fan of silly. Truly. Out of left field. And Bonnie says, and you get to wear silly costumes. Yes. I mean, honestly, if you live your life right, you can always be wearing silly costumes. Oops. Catherine says, I had heard of a mill in the early 19th century that had completely processed wool, wove it, and then sewed a coat out of it as a flex for how fast their looms worked. Well, that's darn cool. I like that as a flex. It's also just showing off your people power. All right, crank the tension one more time, and let's go. Yeah, that is like, I would say a long-term goal is to be able to, I don't know if I would be able to do a coat, but something cool, like something like a bit of a statement piece where I wove the fabric for it would be really awesome. I think it would be pretty easy to do a waistcoat, just because the dimensions of the fabric that comes off of the loom, I think would be a fairly even like match for what the pieces of the pattern would have to be. But a coat, it would have to be pretty tough. I think the limiting factor is how much piecing you're comfortable doing, because the loom produces pretty wide fabric for a loom that fits in your house, but it still produces fabric that's a lot less wide than commercially available fabric. So I think the fabric that I'm working on right now is maybe, I want to say 32 inches wide, or something similar. It might be less than that. It might be under 30. I have to measure it again. It might be 20 something. So yeah, being able to work with that is definitely going to have to be part of the design. There's also the fact that I really, as much fun as I'm having, I'm quite new to all of this, and I don't have a good sense of how much yarn I need for certain things. There are calculators out there that can help you sort of figure out how much yarn you'll need for a particular weaving project, but without those I'd be really screwed. I'm hoping I'll get a sense for it as I keep going. All right, get my extra credit points, move my bobbin up. Catherine says, I ran out of characters, but I had a sheep to shawl, but I heard that sheep to shawl was a thing. Suffice to say, this is now my new favorite sport. Yes, absolutely. I would like to agree with you in that it should be classified as a sport. Holly says a knitted sweater is about 600 grams. Okay, that is interesting because I do know the weight of all of this. I weighed. Go to the cart. This I should have tied it off, or, hitched it off, so it doesn't unspool. I weighed this stuff before I began to spin it. So I weighed it when it was in fluff form, and it weighed. Oh, I have it written down. I want to say 630 grams, ish. Now there will be some loss, as there are little greebles that you pull off here and there, and some of the weight is not really good weight. It's more that hay, it's dirt that's going to come out as you spin it too. I got I would say hopefully 98% of the dirt out when I washed it and carded it, but there's, came off an animal. There's always little bits. So I would say that this fleece was just over 600 grams of usable fluff. So that's interesting that would be approximately a sweater. I really have no idea how that works out to weaving, because unlike a sweater, weaving you have waist basically. A sweater you knit it to measure, but for weaving you would have to cut out your pattern, and therefore there is aspect of that is waist. So I don't know, but you also have half of it that is the warp, which I would probably not do hand woven for or hand spun for, because I don't think I get enough length really. My skeins have to be, just because of the size of my bobbin, fairly small. I think it could be strong enough without a problem, but I think it would end up with a lot of knots in it because I would have to connect a lot of different skeins together. But that is a different problem. We are not there yet. We have not even designed a single hand spun woven garment yet. So I'm definitely jumping the gun there a little. All right, I've dropped my fluff. Fluff. Pardon me. There we go. Yeah. All right. So there's some stuff that I'm definitely still getting my arms around in terms of decision making when it comes to how you spin things. In terms of how tight you spin it, and that sort of thing, and how that affects how it will ply later. I'm kind of just going by vibes, so I have a vague idea of how it will come together, and it did come together pretty much like how I wanted it to when I spun this the first time. So I'm just copying that now for all the skeins so they are roughly matched. This one I think I'm ending up spinning a slightly thinner than the others, so it will not be a perfect match, but I'm hoping eventually in the averages it'll work out. It's hand spun, it's going to be a little irregular. Whoop. There we go. All right, important tea break. Everyone got their beverage? Beverage check. Beverage check. Jolie says, thank you for the beverage reminder. Yes, we must stay hydrated in these trying times. And in these spinning times, must remember to drink our tea. I can show off my fingernails. I bought a tiny set of brushes and some little tiny striping tape. and I've been playing with fingernails lately. It's very unlike me. It's been quite fun to play. It's a basically I threw all of my like then presenting stuff out when I started having a lot of gender emotions, and I'm just like finally confident enough to play again, and it's been really fun. Ali says they're on cup 3 of chai, which is fantastic. Well done. And, oh, Jolie likes my nails. Thank you. I like the little dotty one. I did like, see if he shows up. I did some little dots here. They turned out nice. I actually think that these look pretty fun too. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just playing. All right. Beverages are beveraged. Let's go. The tiny dots are my favorite. Why, thank you. I think they turned out pretty good. I like that they have enough negative space in them that you can actually kind of enjoy that aspect. The other ones have negative space, but it's sort of overtaken, so it's a bit of a wasted opportunity, I feel like. I feel like I just showed my my art background. The negative space was a wasted opportunity. Yeah, thinking about like the weight of the per grams weight of this particular fleece and how much it would take to knit a sweater is kind of interesting. At least this particular fleece was really only just barely enough to make a sweater. When you think about like how much wool is on a sheep, it really does condense down quite dramatically as you spin it and then again as you knit it. So it's kind of wild to think about like the properties of the fibers themselves as they go through these various processes. The wheel's getting ahead of me a little bit there, so I'm trying to play catch up. Not have it spin out of control. Yeah, if I'm feeling it's getting too thin, I just sort of pull it out and then add a little bit, like an extra layer of fiber before it catches on again. I'm not sure that made sense to say out loud, but I was feeling it get a little thin there. So I added a little bit more back in. And here I'm feeling it get a little thick. So I'm just counter twisting it and letting those fibers sort of pull themselves apart. Add more space in. There we go. Holly says, as much as I appreciate, oh wow, I can't speak. As much as I appreciate gifts of yarn, non-knitters really don't know how much time it takes. How much it takes, not how much time it takes. One ball of yarn isn't useful unless it's sock yarn. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. like all of this yarn, for example, I really wanted to make sure it was all homogeneous, or at least as homogeneous as I can get it, because ideally you would use all of it in one project, because it is, as you say, it takes a lot of yardage to do stuff. Yeah. Unless you're making socks, in which case it takes a lot of yardage. It's just, it doesn't weigh as much. All y'all who make socks impress me. That is just a wild, wild thing. I feel like socks is kind of like spinning. Like once someone starts making socks, like the sock bug has bit them. That's now what you do. Now what you do is you knit socks. Like that's who you are. I find that very funny. But I also get it, right? Like I'm sure there's something about it, just like there's something about spinning where it's just like, oh, this feels good. This feels right. I don't really know why, but this is correct. All right, I think what we'll do in terms of this live stream is we will go through the rest of the singles and then I will cut us off. And we will have had a nice little time together. I have this much left and this much left. So we will finish this out and that will be the end of the live stream. But we still got a little time together left. Amazingly, I'm not getting any low battery warnings, which is impressive. I wasn't sure with my cell phone being the web camera here how much that would drain it. I did try to charge everything before I started, but it's basically had the camera on this whole time, and I know that can be quite the battery hog. But it seems like it's doing good, so good job, phone. You're crushing it, man. Ollie says, commercial socks feel so flimsy after hand knit socks. I bet. I have worn hand knit socks before, and they are so squishy. There's a cush there that is just missing from commercial ones. I don't blame you. And Jolie says, I needed this. Thank you. You are very welcome. I also needed this. It will shock you that this was, as much as it was for everyone, it was also for me. So. And this is also kind of a little bit of a test. I did a very, very small scale live stream test earlier for patrons only, and I learned a lot. And this is how I got to here. This has been much more successful. But I think I would like to do more live streams in the future. This is also a bit of a proof of concept. Like I'd like to do a mending Mondays or mending whatever, but Mondays is alliterative and therefore I like it. Where we mend our clothes and do some upkeep, or just hang out and work on stuff like spinning and weaving, where there is opportunity to chat while you're doing it, even if it is time consuming. And I don't know, I find it very refreshing to be able to chat with people, and I hope that y'all feel the same way. Oops, that felt a little thin there. It's a little too chatty. Fix that. All right. More fiber. There we go. Whoop. Gonna lose my points again. Have an untidy bobbin. There we are. Just easy to forget. It doesn't really make a difference. If you let it get so lopsided that it starts to lose tension on itself, that can have some consequences, but otherwise it's actually not that big a deal. It's kind of fun to have it be nice and tidy. It looks nice, in a way that is completely meaningless to the actual product you're creating. It looks nice. The wheel is starting to get a little squeaky. It's the treadle. I think I need to oil that guy again. I can hear him going. All right, we're almost finished with this here. And I will tire off and say we did a good job and move on with our lives. I do encourage you all, including myself, to, not doom scroll. Instead, do some knitting or some crochet, or grab a pencil and start learning how to spin. All right. We did it. All right. This was great, y'all. I had to awkwardly move my head. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.